The first motorcycle myth is that a full face helmet is obstructive to your vision while on a motorcycle. I don't really understand how anyone can think this, considering you don't have eyes on your chin or the back of your head or anywhere else a full face helmet offers protection where a half helmet does not. Safety rated helmets actually require 210 degrees of visibility, whereas the human eye cannot see greater than around 180 degrees to begin with, so that myth is just entirely wrong. Another freebie helmet myth is that a full face helmet will create a greater risk of neck injury in the instance of a crash. I don't even know how anyone could rationalize that. That's just entirely false and has been disproven by medical research countless times. Wear a damn helmet. Make it full face. It's not that complicated. The next myth is that short riders can't ride tall motorcycles. Now, while it is true that a beginner rider who is short should try to find a motorcycle with a lower seat height, as trying to manage a tall bike while also getting familiar with all the riding fundamentals will create an additional and unnecessary obstacle. But for more experienced riders, there are many skills and techniques that you can utilize to ride a motorcycle regardless of your size. You often see dual sport or adventure bikes with seat heights ranging from 33 inches to sometimes as high as 36 inches. And if you're a short king with a 26-inch inseam, that can seem pretty daunting. One such trick that can make it easier for a short rider to manage a tall motorcycle is when coming to a stop, slide off the seat to one side of the motorcycle and just use one foot firmly planted on the ground to keep the bike upright. During this, your center of mass will be completely off the bike and solely on your foot, meaning you won't be pulling the bike over on top of you, but instead using your other leg to hold it upright and in place. An additional trick that can be used in conjunction to just putting one foot down is turning your handlebar opposite in the direction you want to lean as you come to a stop. So if you're going to use your left leg to support the bike as you come to a stop, turn your handlebar to the right and invite the motorcycle to lean in the direction of the leg that's supporting you. There are many circumstances both on and off road when using just one foot to support your bike in a stand can be advantageous, so it's definitely a good habit to get into and will make riding larger bikes much less daunting as you continue your riding journey. And of course, if you're not comfortable as you'd like to be as a short rider, there are lowering seats and handlebar and suspension modifications that can be done to make a tall bike more approachable for smaller riders. The next myth I see is that lane splitting is inherently dangerous. In many parts of the world, not only is lane splitting incredibly common, oftentimes there's not even lanes to begin with. Of course, speeding past a minivan filled with children at 130 miles per hour is pretty unsafe, but in appropriate conditions and done responsibly, lane splitting can be advantageous for both riders and car drivers alike. Lane splitting reduces the risk of a motorcycle being subject to a rear-end collision. I hate sitting at a red light and just waiting for someone to ass-pack me. Motorcycles are more vulnerable to these types of accidents in heavy traffic, especially with how people are just on their phones nowadays and highly distracted. If there was just one singular reason lane splitting would be universally legal, it should be because of distracted drivers. When you're on a motorcycle, it is incredibly easy to see how many people are just on their cell phones constantly while driving. It's insane. I think if a driver's on their cell phone, a motorcyclist has every right to move past them and be on their way. I don't want to be anywhere near you if you're on your phone while you're driving. Lane splitting allows riders to move ahead of stopped or slow-moving traffic, reducing the risk of being stuck from behind. Lane splitting also helps alleviate traffic congestion by allowing motorcycles to move through tight spaces, making it a more efficient use of road space and improving driving conditions for everyone. There are countless reasons I think lane splitting should be universally legal, but you all should just hash it out in the comments section and let me know what you come up with. At the very minimum, I always filter at a red light because I'm not sitting there in the middle of everybody if I don't have to. So you guys know we love to give away motorcycles at YamiNoob.co. We've given away dozens over the years, so we figured being wintertime and all, there'd be no better time to switch it up a bit. So for 2 weeks only, we're going to be giving away a brand new gaming PC. This is an Origin 5000X and it's an absolute beast of a computer. It's part of their RTS or ready to ship model, so it's ready to go right out of the box. It's got an Intel i9 14900K processor, an RTX 4090 FE graphics card, and 64 gigabytes of RAM. Yeah, that's basically going to run anything you throw at it. Now look guys, I haven't gamed in a long time. I had no idea computers were this OP nowadays. This thing's valued at $4,500, and with these specs, you'll have a PC that can run just about anything at any frame rate for a long time. Every dollar spent at YamiNoob.co is going to get you entered to win this computer, and just imagine you could have a brand new rig with which to post anime on our Discord server or make wretched memes to curse the internet. This promotion is only going to the end of January, so don't sleep on it. So go and spend some of your Christmas cash on new riding parts or anticipating the coming riding season or anything else on our store and get entered to win an awesome new computer. Alright, now let's get into the video. Another common motorcycle myth is that loud pipes save lives. This myth has been disproven countless times, yet you see it plastered onto t-shirts worn by middle-aged men at Walmart. Loud pipes are cool sometimes, if they sound good. Oftentimes, they just sound like trash. But either way, there is no evidence to suggest that loud motorcycle exhausts makes a motorcycle in any way more noticeable to cars on the road. Because the sound is coming from a moving vehicle, it's only going to be noticeable when you're right up on a car, but even then, any difference over particularly loud pipes versus stock ones would be negligible. There have been studies done to disprove this, but unfortunately Harley guys aren't particularly partial to what would be considered empirical evidence, and instead base most of their decisions on what happened to their Uncle Ronnie's buddy one time while riding a panhead chopper from Iowa to Sturgis in the snow uphill both ways. If you want to be seen in traffic, make yourself visible both from a color contrasting perspective, a lighting perspective, and have a very loud horn. Trust me, it's going to make a big difference. Speaking of loud pipes, it is also commonly misunderstood that loud pipes create more power. It's not necessarily that people believe it is a volume itself that create power. I mean, Harley guys aren't that dumb, but more so a belief that the louder the exhaust, the more free-flowing it is and thus more powerful it makes your bike. There is definitely a degree of correlation between changing the exhaust system in conjunction with a free-flowing air filter and engine tuning to create more power and having a louder bike as a result. Most MotoGP bikes are loud as hell. You guys know that. They make a ton of power. But correlation doesn't equal causation. Most engines require a degree of back pressure to operate as efficiently as possible, and many times the loudest and most free-flowing exhaust systems actually end up robbing your engine of a decent amount of power. And also guys, those engineers that worked on your motorcycle, they built the exhaust that way for a reason. They spent a lot of time on those things, and they're actually pretty good nowadays. As a motorcyclist, you were sort of trained to believe that cars are the enemy, that they represent an inherent evil that exists solely to make your life as a motorcyclist more dangerous than it needs to be. And while there are many motorcycle accidents that happen as a result of cars, a significant percentage are single vehicle crashes that usually happen as a result of speeding on a motorcycle. Motorcyclists operating at too high of speed for road conditions can veer off the road and crash. There are many other factors that lead to single vehicle motorcycle accidents, such as alcohol consumption, riding at night, having an improperly maintained motorcycle, or simply not having proper riding training courses. And of course, in the event of a crash, wearing proper gear dramatically reduces your risk of serious injury or death. So while motorcyclists need to ride like they're invisible and assume the cars can never see them, especially at intersections or in situations where a rider believes they have the right of way, they must also recognize that's only half the battle. Nearly 40% of motorcycle crashes are single vehicle and the result of the actions of the rider themselves. Another myth that is strange to the sensible and enlightened motorcyclists but still gets spread around amongst riders is the myth of laying her down. This is one of those things that just sounds downright ridiculous, that in any situation a rider crashing their bike intentionally would lead to a better outcome than whatever was going to happen if they just stayed upright. But then I remember the average age of a motorcyclist in America is 48. Wow, and a 48-year-old is ripe for gobbling up misinformation anywhere they can get it. I had to lay her down comes from the idea that a person intentionally low-sided their motorcycle in order to avoid some other outcome. But that other outcome is never specified. No one ever says, I had to lay her down because there were a dozen school children playing hopscotch and jump rope on the tail of the dragon, or I had to lay her down because the Beatles were walking across the street and I didn't want to ruin their Abbey Road album cover. Like, you had to lay her down because you braked improperly and washed out the front end because you didn't know how to ride a motorcycle, or the front end was underloaded because you tried to turn in without loading it. In any circumstance beyond needing to slide beneath a semi-truck, just braking the motorcycle will stop you faster than laying down ever will. People who don't wear gear always say that riding gear is hot or uncomfortable. Maybe in 1980 when the only riding gear was made of leather, but it would be prohibitively hot to wear during the summer. But it's 2024 now, my guy. We have science and we ostensibly live in a cyberpunk dystopia. There are all sorts of highly engineered riding gear that exists for every type of weather conditions you could imagine. There's hot weather gear, cold weather gear, rain gear, you name it. There are fabrics and textiles designed specifically to aid in maintaining proper internal temperatures, regardless of whether it is too hot or too cold outside. Just do a little research for like 2 minutes and you'll realize that. Like, if you wanted to wear a t-shirt in the summer, that's your risk to take. Just make sure no photographic evidence makes its way onto our motorcycles, or you'll be doxxed, and you'll also offer up excuses that makes younger and impressionable riders as ill-informed as you are. Sometimes there are things I wish I didn't need to say, but I have to anyways. This is one of them. Racing slicks are not for street use, and they're not going to make you any faster on your Ninja 400. A racing slick needs to be warmed to provide proper traction, and in normal street use, they will never reach temperatures high enough to provide you any advantage during your ride. Normal streets are vastly different than a dedicated racetrack. There's debris, oil spills, tar snakes, grass clippings, puddles, and potential rain. In every circumstance, normal DOT motorcycle tires will create a better and safer riding experience than racing slicks ever would. These squids are just too much sometimes. They'll say, bro, I ride in racing slicks at night in the rain with a tinted windscreen behind a tinted visor with sunglasses on and no license plate and joggers and sneakers and a hoodie and motorcycle gloves, and I'll film it and put it on TikTok, and my dad is finally gonna love me. Also, bonus myth for you, a sport touring tire is probably gonna serve you way better than a hypersport tire. It's gonna last longer, it'll have just as much grip, and it'll actually disperse water better in most overall conditions, and it'll operate at better temperatures as well too. So yeah, just put a sport touring tire on whatever street motorcycle you have, it will probably be better. Don't buy like a Pirelli Super Corsa SP to ride on the street. That's just kind of silly. And the last myth on today's list is that all European motorcycles are unreliable. We've talked about this on the channel before. You can say European motorcycles are less reliable than Japanese bikes, but hell, that stint in the doctors put in your grandpappy's heart is probably still less reliable than a Japanese motorcycle. The steel beams inside the World Trade Center were less reliable than a Japanese motorcycle. If Building 7 was entirely made of Honda Goldwings, it may have not fallen down on its own accord. Getting a little spicy here at the end of the video. My point being, many consumer products pale in comparison to the reliability of a Japanese motorcycle. European bikes at one time had some pretty questionable manufacturing processes that stem from selling dozens of a particular motorcycle compared to the thousands and thousands produced by the Big Four. But in the year of our yam 2024, most European bikes are pretty up to snuff. That's not to say that they may not have more rigorous or costly maintenance schedules, but that just comes with the territory when you're talking about high-performance, luxurious motor vehicles. You either get that or you don't. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and check out our gaming PC giveaway on yammynoob.co, and I'll see you later. Fact: your ribs, if removed, can actually grow back as long as the perichondrium membrane is intact. They're the only bones in mammals known to do so. Goodbye.
Keep watching Yammy Noob.